Paralives doesn't look realistic, and to me, that's its secret weapon. When I first heard of Paralives, I was immediately thrown off at the art style, but over the past couple of years, up until now, I do feel like it has definitely grown on me. I absolutely love the pastel colors and the hand-painted textures and the slightly sketchy outlines, and almost looks like a watercolor painting that's come to life. Y'all let me know down below in the comments, am I reaching, or do you guys understand what I'm trying to say? I feel like if you've seen other life simulation games like The Sims 4 or Inzoi, Paralives instantly stands out because of the art style. And today, that's what we're going to be talking all about. And I really want to get into the nitty gritty of their art style just because it is so different from a lot of other life simulation games. And we're going to explore where the aesthetic comes from, how it differs from other life simulation games, and overall, why players are connecting to it so strongly, including myself. So because this isn't just about graphics, it's about how style shapes experience, we're going to start all about Paralives' world and why it looks the way it does. Now, of course, if you guys have opinions, please leave them down below in the comments because I would love to hear yours. But before we get into the video, I do want to say, what is up, guys? My name's the Simian. My name is Yen. I play simulation games. Did you see what I did there? And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I talk all things sim news. So if you guys have something you guys want me to cover, go ahead and leave it down below in the comments because I will try my best to look into it and see what I can do. Let's get into the very first part of the video, and I want to talk about the watercolor aesthetic. So I believe that Paralives art direction is often described as watercolor or painting, and I don't feel like they're very far off. It's a technical and emotional decision, and let me explain why I say this. So according to the Patreon post, it's called like explaining our art direction. The team specifically designed 2 layers to their visuals: characters that look slightly hand-drawn with outlines and, shading, and environments that look softer, more painted with a fewer outlines and hand-textured surfaces. Why, you might ask? Because in a life sim, clarity is everything. So the developers did say that parafolks have to be easy to spot, even in a big cluttered house. The painting background and flat shading help your eyes rest, and you can instantly know where to look. And I felt like this is something that is so true because they could get lost in the background as you start to play because, again, the shading is different from the actual clothing itself. So if you look at it very closely, you can see that the parafolks look completely different than the objects that you see in the background, like, the sink or the toothbrushes or the beds or the chairs, the dining table, the lamps. They look completely different than the parafolks itself, and I think that's what makes it look so cool and original. But that's personally for me. There's on Reddit, someone put, it's not super cartoony, but also not realistic to an uncanny degree. It's the best of both worlds, and I completely agree. It definitely gives off exactly what the developers wanted. Very cozy, calm, and it's just all about expression and not perfection. And I think that's something that's very true to the developers and what they've been trying to, state from the get-go. The next one I want to get into is basically how it's different from The Sims 4, Inzoi, and other life simulation games. Now, I know a lot of you guys in the comments are going to be like, do not compare The Sims 4, Inzoi to Paralives, and I completely agree. I'm not comparing. I'm just basically stating how it's different. Okay, so let's be honest. When you think of life simulation games, your brain first goes straight to The Sims. The Sims 4 has been one of the iconic life simulation games for a very long time, and if you look at Inzoi, the upcoming, life sim that is still in early access, it does push realism even further because they are using an Unreal Engine to produce almost movie-like visuals. If you want to be real, like, they are really trying to go all in when it comes down to how realistic their Inzois can look. And Paralives, I feel, by just, if you just look at, Paralives by contrast, right? It steps away from the realism, and to me, Paralives is not trying to compete, but it's trying to stand out and be a little bit more original, in a sense that when you think Paralives, you think this is the art style, and it immediately brings you to just a different feeling rather than the other life simulation games. I do feel like it's not saying that we can do better graphics. It's more like we want more of a feeling based rather than graphics. And that's personally how I feel, just looking based off the art style. So y'all let me know down below in the comments how y'all feel about that. I feel like when other life simulation games try to make you believe you're living in this virtual replica of like reality, I feel like it's different with Paralives because it's almost like it's so cartoony to the point where it feels like you are playing a life simulation game. It feels like you are, just designing this game inside of your, world that you wish, but at the same time, it's a hint of like coziness, and I feel like that's what people love. And you know, The Sims definitely did a great job with that. I'm not you know, saying that The Sims didn't do a good job with that. I'm saying the you know, the more realistic it looks, the more it starts to, a lot of you know, and a lot of simmers, people who play simulation games in general have stated this, that when, you know, once it starts to become too realistic, it almost kind of throws you off because you don't feel like you're playing a game anymore, and it loses that cozy feeling. I know a lot of people felt that way with Inzoi, and a lot of people felt, you know, even some people feel that way with even alpha mods. I love alpha mods, but I know some people would rather see maxes because they want it to look as cartoony as possible. But that's just an opinion based. I would love to know your opinions down below in the comments. Do you guys feel like they are going to you know, eventually, you know, add more realism? I do know that modders plan to, you know, join the Paralives community, and where they are going to be designing more realistic mods. There's different modders out there, guys. Some are going to be going exactly how it looks for the game, and some might go a little bit more realistic. But I would love to know down below in the comments what's something that you guys are excited to see about. Now, I do want to also mention that there's another benefit to the Paralives art style, because it does look like the developers can create new furniture environments and build tool faster without worrying about matching like this hyper real texture, you know. So I want to also put, because they did state on their Steam page that the Parafolks are stylized where the buildings and objects are slightly more realistic, and I feel like that contrast makes everything feel a little bit more cohesive to me and easy to read. It's like very visually pleasing to the eye, and that's why for so many people, Paralives looks and feels more inviting than something that's, you know, photoreal, and it's not intimidating, it's not personal, it's a game. And I feel like this wasn't by accident. The developers behind Paralives have been crafting this look since 2019, and they've explained exactly why they chose it. That's leading up to this next you know, part. I do want to mention that Alex Macy, who is the creator of Paralives, again, Paralives started as a solo project back in 2019 by Alex. He was an animator and a 3D artist who wanted to build his dream life simulation game. And over time, it's grown into a small studio, but one that stayed independent. And thanks to the community funding on Patreon, which is making over 50 grand a month, that freedom allowed them to, you know, take artistic risk. In their art direction post, the team broke down the, you know, the design pillars. They said a unique, instantly recognizable style. They wanted to serve the gameplay. They wanted to make Parafolk stand out visually, and they wanted quick to produce. So again, they did say that we're only a few artists, so it's important to have a style that isn't too demanding time-wise. And that last point is key, because by going stylized, they're not just saving time, they're also making development, you know, a little bit more sustainable for their projects in the future. And I do feel like their art style allows the team to quickly experiment, but also they can expand without breaking this consistency of the visualness of what they're trying to achieve. I feel like they even said themselves, the shadows on the characters aren't very strong, and we want a flattering look, so the lighting won't be super complicated in the end. And you can see that. You can see that within the trailer, you can see that in the teasers, you can see that in the way they're promoting the game, and I love it. I like that they're being honest with us, because it makes us feel understood in every which way in how we look at the, you know, the art style. Why are the shadows like this? Why do people look like this? Why do the, and everything just makes sense. So this looks completely different than how you would actually visualize a Parafolk once they walk in. And I love that. I love that the Parafolks look completely different than the build and buy objects that you see. I feel like this aesthetic gives those systems room to like breathe, in my opinion, and it ties the game's like visuals and mechanics and identity all together. So it ends up making this really cool, realistic looking game. I think overall, when Paralives first came out, a lot of people were very excited. Some were very thrown off at the art style. Some had to grow. I'm one of those people where the art style definitely had to grow. But from the reaction from the communities when it first came out, even to the trailer that recently came out stating like, you know, Paralives is coming in early access, you know, December 8th. And a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, this could actually be the next big life sim. Now, there is a lot of comparing with Paralives to other life simulation games, and I don't want to hold them to comparing because, again, Paralives is an indie studio, okay? There's 15 people working on this project. So, again, with early access, please keep that in mind, that they are a small team making a really big game, which is super impressive. I think they are so impressive for making this game with the amount of people that they have. I don't think people are understanding the level of detail, and for them to be as transparent as they are, I feel like this is going to go I think it's gonna go swell. Not gonna lie, I don't even use that damn word. I don't use swell a lot, but I think it's gonna go swell. I'm gonna say it, and I'm really excited to see what they have to build and what they're gonna be doing in the future. And again, I just feel like the secret behind Paralives art style, it's not about, you know, the outlines and all this. The decision to look less real so the experience could feel more cozy and just connected. I feel like they did one. They did their big one. Paralives gives players a world that welcomes creativity, but also it's not intimidating with realism, and I feel like that is the biggest thing. The art style that supports this gameplay, and then the imagination and just the game's overall original identity, I feel like is going to be something that's going to be talked about for a very long time. And because sometimes the most realistic thing a game can do, it reminds you that life and art don't have to look perfect to feel real. And I feel like that's what Paralives definitely made it come across and make you feel. So anyway, what are y'all, thinking of? Let me know. Let me know how you guys feel about the art side. I really want to do a whole video dedicated to this because it was really important to me, not only as a, life simulator player, but it's just interesting to think about the choices that they made with this. With all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up because it truly does help on my channel. And whether you're a silent viewer, you like my videos, you comment on my videos, or you share my videos, at the end of the day, you still show me some support. And for that, I thank you. I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye.